My name is David Yockelson. You are here for this presentation, How Interactive Demonstration Technology Will Change Your Life and the Life of Your Prospects. I am also the conference chair in my other job, or 3 jobs. So if you're enjoying the conference, tell my boss, he's walking around. If you're not, there's the exit. Right there. All right. So how interactive demonstration technology will change your prospect's life and your life. That's a lofty goal for a 30-minute presentation, but we're going to get through it. We're going to talk about how and why. Now, it may interest you to know that most of the conversations that I have about this technology and this solution space don't start with, what product should I buy? They start in other directions, and they usually have to do with lengths of sales cycles and clogged funnels and buyers and prospects and users that don't really engage all that well. And unfortunately, it's all your fault, all of you, or many of you. I can't include everyone in the guilt, but the problem is that many of us force our buyers into our sales process. And spoiler alert, we know that buyers don't like that. But what do we make them do? We got to qualify them, we got to make them go through discovery, we got to hand them off from SDR or BDR to AE to someone else. It takes a long time, and maybe if they get through that and they're lucky, maybe then they get to see a demo and they get to see if your product actually does what you say it does. But we make them go through all of that just to get to the point, the glorious point of seeing the product. And as I alluded to, that's not what buyers want to do. And I could trot out the trove of Gartner research that you probably all know and love well that says buyers don't want to talk to sellers right off the bat. They don't spend a lot of time with you. They don't want to spend time with you. They want to do their own research. They want to know what's going on. They want to be able to differentiate. And they actually want to see what the heck the product does. Now, how many of you, and as a former product marketer, I ran into this all the time, says, just give them the demo. Just give them the demo. And we say, no, they have to wait. That doesn't work. How many of you in your companies have said or heard, whenever we show them the product, we win the deal 98% of the time? Everybody. It's a tech crowd, of course. That's the way it goes. And yet, we don't do that. We make them wait. We make them wait. Now, I have been in tech longer than I care to remember at this point, and I probably can't remember anymore because I'm so old and have done it so long. And I've worked with sales as a product marketer for many years. And the mantra always was, you got to make sure they understand the value of what you do before you show them the demo. I am also a Gartner fellow. My fellow work was on value and the importance of value in go-to-market and sales and marketing. And I'm telling you, we got to do it differently. It's not the way it needs to work. And if you believe that, and if we get to the point where we say, well, we know that buyers don't want to talk to the sellers, we don't really want to make them wait months of time to actually see our product, what do we do? What do we put up on our websites? Get a demo, see a demo, request a demo, talk to sales. My favorite one, request your free demo. They're all free, or I hope they're all free. Anyway, so we get in the way quite a bit. This is a quote that I won't read entirely from an actual technology buyer. Actually, it's a survey that we did where we went and asked tech buyers what the heck gets in your way. And one of the issues was, well, we talk to a lot of vendors, and if we're fortunate enough to get to the demo, it doesn't do what we want it to do anyway. So even in that case, everybody's time got wasted. If they only could have seen if the product did what they wanted up at the start, things would have been much better. So now let's say you agree with that. Dave's right, we got to do things differently. And you want to give demos. Well, how many can you do at once? And right now, somebody, and I forget who said it, and I can't credit them, but they said the smart thing that giving a demo is an event. You have to have a person giving the demo and an audience. So sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's a group of people. So it could be one to many, it could be one to one. But you have to have at least a person from your side to do it. But wouldn't you rather make it infinite? Wouldn't you rather offer as many as you could to whomever wanted them, whenever they wanted them? And if you want to give a demo, what has to actually be in place for you to do it? Well, it's that human being and the technology. I know you all have, and I certainly have, the horror stories of the demo that failed. And the Microsoft story is legend. But I mean, recent example, I was on a call, or it was an Analyst Day call with giant technology vendor X. And they wanted to show off their amazing, awesome, wonderful generative AI technology. And they had 2 demos to show. First one just didn't work, failed while we're sitting there waiting. And then the second one failed because the internet in the person's hotel didn't work. Why are we doing this? Why are we putting ourselves through this? So the net of this is they're hard to do. And particularly if you have complex applications or multi-product applications. I have something that runs on Salesforce. Great. That means my demo people have to have 2 production instances running, and I have to train people and get it running, all that kind of stuff. So now put on your, or I would put on, if I had them, my Morpheus glasses. What if I could tell you that you could treat demos just like content? Put them on your websites, send them out in emails, use them in campaigns. And what if those demos collected data about what people did with them? If I had a demo or a tour and it had 10 steps in it, I knew what steps they walked through, I know what checkboxes they looked at, I know who they sent it to in their company. These 2 things, these 2 characteristics of interactive demo technology change everything about the way that we need to think about demos that we offer people. So now I'm finished telling you the problem. Now we're going to talk about what are these things, how and where and why should you use them. Spoiler alert, the answer is always, everywhere, all the time. Not shy about that. And how do you pick the right one? Because we'll find out how many of them there are in this earth. So first question, what is an interactive demo application? What's an interactive demo? Kudos to my creative team who came up with this wonderful simulation of an actual demo. So what is it? An interactive demo is a substitute for a live production product. They're easily customizable substitutes for the production version of your applications. That is a mouthful. Let me try to peel the onion a bit and describe more about what these are and how they work. So an interactive demonstration, also known as demo automation. So if you, in the market, you'll hear people describe this as demo automation technology. I decided to call it interactive demo tech. We can fight about it. Some other thing, we'll flip a coin, something. Anyway, this technology is put to work a bunch of different ways. So when you look at this list, what you're looking at are the methods of creating an interactive demonstration. And the way to think about this list, generally, is the fidelity of the application or the fidelity of the demo in terms of how real it is in relation to a product increases as you go down. So, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time describing all of these, but they each have their utility. In a few minutes, I'm going to talk about all the different use cases and how it fits into your worlds. And what you find is that pretty much every creation method has a benefit and a purpose across your funnel, across the buying process, whatever you want to call that. But the neat thing is, especially when you start contrasting this with other ways to create demos. So the one is the production version that I just listed all the horror that goes along with that. But let's say, well, no, we create videos for our demos. Well, it's wonderful. What happens when your product changes? What happens if something little happens? What happens if the voiceover is bad? Videos cost money. They take time. Generally speaking, creating an interactive demo takes hours, days, can be weeks. And again, kind of as you go down this list, the time increases, only because the fidelity and the reality of what you're creating increases with respect to the original application. But the important point here is the hours to days. If you contrast this again with the ways that you do demos today, with the videos that you create, or with the GIF images that you put on the websites that often are blurry and don't do anything and don't help anyone and don't collect data, to me this is infinitely better. So the value here, a major value of this is time. And you'll see some metrics later on that back this up. But for me, the major benefit of this technology is it shortens the buying process. So think about how long it takes, especially when you have buying teams of, our numbers say 10 people on average. 3 of them want a demo, 5 of them want a demo. How long does it take to schedule it? How long does it take to get everybody in the same page? All that kind of stuff. So speed is a major benefit here. What do interactive demos look like? Now, I will beg your forbearance. These are awful representations. They're actual screenshots of actual interactive demos, but it's like 2D versus 3D. So what I would encourage you to do is, and you can come to me for links, or there are easy ways to find them, but there are lots and lots and lots of examples out there on the web, and all the vendors that are in this space have been really good about putting up customer examples. So you can go take a look. But I'll show you just a couple of things here. And there are some things that I want to point out about how they work. So here is a screen taken from a demo. So the captured screen is in the background. And what you see are guides. So all of the applications here offer some form of guidance or hand-holding through the tour, through the demo, through the application. Now, why do you want to do that? Well, you want to be able to tell a story effectively. You want to highlight the differentiated capabilities of your application in the space of that demo. So the guidance really helps to point out those things. In addition to guidance, there are also hotspots. You're going to see, so this is taken from an Atlassian webpage. You're going to actually see 2 from Atlassian because they work with a couple of different vendors. But the thing here to point out is that the red thing in the middle, the hotspot. So you can have guides, you can have hotspots. The hotspots get somebody to go to a particular point on the page that says, hey, when you click this button, this happens. So you start to see this picture where for the user or for the buyer, they can get a really good look at how is that product going to work in this particular use case, in this particular situation. And I say use case because, and since this technology is so easy to work with, you can create these for multiple use cases or multiple roles or buyer personas, however you want to think about it. I'll show you an example of that in a second. So this is kind of more of the same, more guidance, more pointing out. Here's the other one from Atlassian. And what you're looking at a little bit in the contrast between these 2 examples is one that's a little bit more precise in terms of walking through the product itself. And this is a slightly higher level story told through interactive video, through the application. You can't see that, but trust me, that's what it does. And then the last one is an example from Pendo. And you can, again, you can navigate to the website, you can take a look yourself. They've created 8 different product tours for 8 different use cases that go along with their products. Zendesk has done the same thing. And you go through as a user and you walk through. And remember, Pendo is collecting data about all of this. So each one that I walk through, the set that I walk through, they know who did it, what they stopped on. You can insert CTAs in them. You can insert forms in them. You can do a whole bunch of different things. So lots of utility. Oops, did I do that wrong? There we go. I started looking at this technology roughly 3 years ago, almost about the same time I got into product-led growth, go-to-market, which, by the way, you can hear me talk about at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, if you're still here. And there were a lot of, the 2 are directly related, I think, and sort of pejoratively, I didn't mean it pejoratively, but I used to call this technology PLG light back in the day. Why did I do that? So it turns out, if folks are familiar with product-led growth, strategy, tactics, show them the product. I know everybody thinks free trial, freemium, but it doesn't have to be that. In fact, it need not be that when you have a product that can't go into a self-serve motion. So what's a challenge with product-led growth is not every product fits this self-serve motion. Not everything can have a free trial or a freemium offer. Why? Sometimes the data that's required to run it is too risky for the customer to put in, the integration requirements are too hard, the application's too cumbersome, et cetera, et cetera. So if you are an SLG, sales-led growth company, or you have a product that doesn't really fit the self-serve model, this is your answer. I can now show off my product early and often. I don't have to wait to schedule the demo with someone. I don't have to worry that somebody won't want to participate in my free trial. That will be too difficult to create anyway. But what if I am a PLG shop? Turns out, and I forget if you see metrics later, but there are metrics that tell us that interactive demo applications are incredibly effective in getting people into free trials. Now, I'll scold all of you again, and I'll do it again tomorrow in the PLG session, but it turns out the dropout rate from free trials and free offers is ridiculously bad. I'll say the number here. The number is 60% of users that would use an application leave before they activate. So people get to your website, you're losing 60% of them before they get to the free trial or the freemium offer. We can do way better than that, and this is one way to do that. So for people that might think it's too risky to take on the trial or the freemium, or it's too difficult, or they're not sure what they're going to get from it or how it's going to work, this as a lead-in to that is great. And what we see are triple-digit increases in conversion rates into trials, or simply conversion rates into next call, next meeting, when there's going to be a meeting. So it doesn't matter whether you're sales-led or product-led, this can be helpful. The other element of product-led I should have brought up is that, so I told you about the 60% dropout rate before they get to the application. So when they're in it, there's another about 20% that abandon. For a variety of reasons, we don't put enough guidance, we don't lead them to value, it's not easy enough, so on and so forth. So if you think of using interactive demos as a way to keep them engaged, another huge benefit. Now, you can also do that with video and other stuff, but then you run into the problems I talked about with video. It's costly, it's expensive, if you have to change it, it's too hard, et cetera. So huge efficacy there as well. So now I've been spending 17 minutes creating this panacea and wonderful world of interactive demos, but not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes things can go wrong. What can go wrong? One thing I will say is that, generally speaking, the technology works. There's a reason that there are a lot of vendors, and they're all doing fairly well in this market. It's because the products tend to work, and they deliver the value that I'm talking about. So when issues come up, they're often not so much about the products themselves, but it's about how they're implemented and used. So what do we hear goes wrong? One is they may not have the right level of guidance. So remember, you're substituting for humans, so you want to tell the story through the tour, through the demo. And so you should be highlighting through the screens and guides and checklists and so on, or CTAs. Here's what's going on, here's what you need to see, here's what's cool, do this, do that. Look what happened. Hey, this is wonderful. So make sure that people are led the right way through them. But it can't be too long. Anecdotally, and there's some data behind it, but the length of these, or the optimal length of these, is somewhere between 10 and 15 clicks, usually. So these are not 100 click-through onerous things like the 6-minute videos we tell people not to put on the front page of their website. These are short and to the point, highlighting specific use cases or features, benefits, and so on. This is where David becomes a socialist for a minute. So generally, I think we shouldn't gate anything except Gartner content that you paid for. That is, but other than that, so there is no data that we have that says gating or ungating works better or worse. Anecdotally, what I've seen out in the market is it's almost 50-50 in some cases, but not almost 50-50. It tends to be in favor of not gating. I am very much in favor of not gating these, and I think you can do things that are smarter. Like, don't gate the entry to the demo, but put in a CTA towards the end that says, hey, now tell us something, or to get more. You can always put the CTA that says contact sales or go to the free trial, something like that. But there are ways to get data, especially now that we have all awesome, amazing enrichment capabilities. So even if people didn't give you information, you're going to find out who they are anyway. Much more important to show them the value of what you do quickly and easily, especially if you're going to embed it on the website. How and where do these work across the buying process? The technology is really versatile. It's kind of like a hammer and everything is a nail. So let's look at it from a use case standpoint. And just to go through quick, there are use cases in sales and marketing, for product management. My favorite one in product management is, how do product managers show off new features? They create a Figma diagram. But the Figma doesn't give you data back. Well, most of these products let you take the Figma and put it into the interactive demo and create a demo out of it that gives you data. Isn't that wonderful? But showing off new features, talking about roadmap stuff, customer success is another area where we see a lot of activity. And I don't even have on here supporting the channel, which is kind of another use case. But let's talk for a minute about the sales and marketing, because they tend to be the two major use cases that we see. Now, back in the early days of this market, a year ago or so, most of the vendors would categorize themselves: we focus on the sales stuff, or we focus on the marketing stuff. And certain analysts kind of did that too. I apologize. And what one realizes, talking to many, many of you over a period of time, is that it's not about one or the other. And what you're really trying to do, if you look at it from your customers, your prospects' perspective, you're trying to help them along their buying process. So when you do that, and forgive the incredible busyness of this diagram, but when you do that, you start to see the applicability of this technology across the process and within each different buying job that your buying team has. And so, sorry, what you're looking at here in the dark blue are the 6 different buying jobs that your buyers go through, or your buying teams go through. And hopefully we all realize at this point that buying is not a linear, easy process. It is a horrible, convoluted process, because not only do you have these 6 jobs that have to get done, they get repeated 80% of the time, each of the first 4. And then your buying team has to validate that they're going after the right problem, they're doing it with the right provider, and they have to get to consensus that we all agree that this is the right thing to do. And so this technology is employable across all of those different areas. And that's where you start to think about the range of demo creation capability, and when is it the right time to tell a story at a higher level, when is it a good time to have a more clickable, high-fidelity version of what I do, and when is it the right time to have a sandbox at the point where we really want to evaluate, does this do what we want it to do, but I don't want to hand over my PII data or stuff like that. So utility across the entire thing, and again, you have the benefit of collecting data from it. So think about it again from the product-led perspective. Part of my mantra with product-led is a data-driven motion. You should be collecting data in a variety of different forms about the people using your product in trials and freemium and so on. Well, when you can't do that, when you can't put your product into that motion, this is the next best thing. Because now I can have a demo or a tour that tells me what the heck they looked at and what they liked and what they're not doing or doing. So really good stuff. So let's ask the question again, how many demos can you give at once? It's infinite. So now you have demos available 24/7 for as many use cases as you have the appetite to build. So huge advantage. I think about this as a force multiplier for sales in particular, because the poor SEs or SDRs or sellers are the ones that usually have to give the demos. By the way, as a former product marketer, I spent a lot of time going into hex code and trying to tailor a custom demo and then trying to give it and all that stuff. And I wish this had existed back in the late 80s and 90s when I was doing that, but oh well. It's here now for you. You're welcome. So, infinite numbers. Let's look at some more of the specific benefits around this. So I am going to categorize them in terms of marketing and sales metrics. So, and this is somewhat universal. So, rising tide carries all ships. Companies that have put this technology to work are seeing it from pretty much all the vendors that they're working with. So the conversion from somebody looking at the demo to being a marketing qualified lead, 10 times as many. 450% lift in free trial signups, so easing the path into the free trial. And the last one is amazing, a 28% reduction in customer acquisition cost. So that's pretty cool. And sorry to keep making the comparisons to PLG, but PLG, unless you're in this micro-sized universe where everything is self-serve, it's not going to reduce your customer acquisition cost. This can, just because of the time and people and all the other things that get saved. On the sales side, many, many more leads become qualified opportunities. Actually, what's awesome about this is people qualify themselves. by virtue of walking through and going through the demos and doing that stuff. Close rates happen twice as fast, and there's a 33% increase in deal velocity. So the technology is proving to shorten the sales cycles, which I think everybody would like. So if you buy into this, if this is awesome, okay, I'm ready to go, how do I pick my vendor? Well, bad news, I guess, there's a lot of them. I say over 25. It kind of depends how you count. But if you include sandbox providers in this, then we're around a number that's 30 or so. So I'm going to give you a high-level, really quick 4-minute guide to how do I start to think about picking the right one. But remember, we're always open. We're available for inquiry, and ask us for more specifics. But at a high level, what do you want to think about? So there are 30 vendors in this space. Some of them are really young, some of them are more mature, some of them have lots and lots of customers, some of them have 0 customers. So depending upon how and where you want to place a bet, who's been funded, who has lots of customers, who has happy customers, that stuff is relatively easy to find out. So at a high level, I would start there. The second thing to think about, and this is where if you start to think about this, and you should, as a strategic kind of a decision, you want to think about how and where will I use this technology most or most often. And if you plan on using it across that buying process, then it suggests that you want to go with a vendor that offers a lot of different creation methods, because that will increase the types of demos that you use across that span. So generally speaking, the greater the breadth of creation capability, the safer one is strategically. And then once you get past that gate, then you start thinking about some of the individual characteristics of the applications. And I won't go through all of these, but the top 1 and 2, speed and ease, and 3 and 4 are speed and ease. And then, what do you integrate with? Does it integrate with my marketing automation, CRM, sales engagement? Does it collect analytics? And generally speaking, most vendors do some to more of that. So you can find that pretty often. So that's how to think about it. Now, the other piece of good news is we did a market guide on this space last year with 18 vendors in it. We're going to do one this year. If I wasn't here right now talking about this, I would be working on it. So it's your fault that I'm not. But come end of June, we'll have an updated market guide. So that will help. The other thing to think about is, sort of back to a PLG moment for a second, I urge everyone to try out this technology. The good news is it's pretty easy to do because there's a bunch of the vendors that offer freemium price, which isn't that term an oxymoron? So freemium offer, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, there are a bunch of vendors that offer freemium. Do it. Activate, onboard, try it out. There are also some vendors that are really, really, really low cost. And to a good degree, the low cost means less function. So typically what that means, if you remember, if I go back for a second, to this chart in the middle, the lower the price, the less creation methods, and thus the less span that you have typically. But $48 a month is pretty low risk. So what I would say is try it out. Doesn't mean you have to stick with that. And then it's low risk, and switchability at that level isn't too bad. Last minute, let's talk about where this is headed. So this wouldn't be a presentation at this conference if Gen AI wasn't spoken about somehow. So it's beginning to infuse this space as well. Where's it being used? Translation, creating demo scripts, sometimes figuring out what the demo should be about, or what should come next given other screens. More and more, as you can imagine, happening there every week. Functions supporting teams and demo centers. So larger organizations tend to have a person or people that manage all the demo stuff, whatever form it takes. And so supporting that for a smaller number of creators, but lots and lots and lots of users, consumers of it, and supporting the entitlement and permission, all the other functions that go with that, are on the rise as well. Tracking how these are working with respect to sales, also really important, and also an area where we're seeing more activity. So which deals were won with which demos, which sellers are using which demos and who are not, and let's go yell at them because they're not. More platforms are adding more of the different creation capabilities, so I think that's good for all of you. And pricing is evolving pretty quickly to, today we have some products that are only per seat, some products that are tiered. We see combinations of both. That's a longer discussion. So what do I recommend that you do, having heard all this wonderful stuff? One is, sounds dumb, obvious, but take a look at your go-to-market. So am I sales-led, am I product-led, am I hybrid, which is where I think everybody ends up? And if I am, where can I make things easier? Where can I reduce friction in that buying process? And thus, where can I apply this stuff? And spoiler alert, you can pretty much apply it anywhere. And start looking at this stuff yesterday. It works. It's efficacious, as somebody that did well in the SAT would say. And when you implement this, and it will work, other people will want it in your organization. So I always have said, buy tactically and think strategically. I think you really have to do that here. I think you want to think about, even though I said, hey, try something at low risk, when you make the purchase decision, think about, I'd rather not buy 3 of them. Is that vendor going to allow me to address the span that I really want to, that we're talking about? So do all of those things. And remember that there's no excuse anymore. I do not want to see get a demo on anyone's website after this. So thank you very much. I send you off on your way.